It is good to be with you. The Sermon of the Month series was created by the UUA Congregational Life Small Congregations Task Force to help support small congregations with quality worship services. Speakers will be members of the Congregational Life staff, other UUA staff groups, or guest preachers from around the country. Today's reflection is adapted from the sermon Receiving Generously, originally delivered by the Reverend Erica Baton, a Congregational Consultant in the New England region. Today, I want to talk to you about the practice of centering gifts. Our team's understanding of this practice has been deeply informed by Malidoma Somé, who was an elder of the Dagara people in Burkina Faso in West Africa, who understood his mission to be bringing this wisdom to the world. Here is a bit from his writing. Whether they are raised in indigenous or modern cultures, there are two things that people crave: the full realization of their innate gifts and to have these gifts approved, acknowledged, and confirmed. There are countless people in the West whose efforts are sadly wasted because they have no means of expressing their unique genius. In the psyches of such people, there is an inner power and an authority that fails to shine because of the world around them cannot perceive it. Now, when I say gifts, that needs a little explanation, because we live in a context that is really focused on productivity and marketable skills. So lots of us have learned all kinds of skills and techniques that we use in our work lives, our congregational lives, our families, everywhere we go. There are lots of very helpful skills and techniques for all kinds of tasks and situations, and having a good number of them available to you can be really helpful. I'm all about developing skills. But gifts are something different. Notice that Malidoma Somé calls them innate gifts. You are born with them. They are part of your nature. You can develop and hone them for sure, but you don't have to learn them at the basic level because they are a part of you. I think of gifts of things that shine out of us, the things we can't not do in a joyful way, like the person whose attention is always drawn to babies and small children, who interacts with them with such delight and openness that the children love them back. Or that person who is so in love with the earth and soil that their garden is always overflowing. Or the person who can see a jumble of anything: clothes, files, images, ideas, Christmas decorations, and make them into a beautiful order, and does not find the task onerous, but rather enjoys the challenge and finds deep satisfaction in its completion. Malidoma Somé goes so far as to call this our unique genius. Did you know you are a genius? We're not taught to think this way about ourselves in this culture. Genius is something a very few, very smart, very accomplished people have. The rest of us are just ordinary, not spectacular, not special, just ordinary. Even people who are labeled as gifted as children can feel the weight of imposter syndrome. I'm not actually special or gifted. Someday they'll notice that I'm just ordinary. But Malidoma Somé tells us that we all have a unique genius. So you are a genius. You just have to find the thing that makes you a genius. How do you know what your gifts are? How do you identify your unique genius? Sometimes we just know, but often we need others to help us discover our gifts. This seems strange if a gift is something so core to our being, we can't not do it. But it is precisely why it can be difficult sometimes to discern our own gifts. Because gifts come so naturally to us, we may think, that can't be a gift. That's no big deal. Anyone can do that. As it turns out, that is often not true. It is likely something that comes easily and naturally to you that others have to struggle to do it. Some gifts are big and showy and hard to miss. I think, for example, of people with a gift for performing. It usually becomes obvious at some point. Or people with a gift for greeting and welcoming others. You've probably met them because they have a gift for meeting you. Other gifts are quieter and subtler. The gift of sitting with someone who is sad or lonely without trying to fix it. The gift of just being there. The gift of creating a physical space that feels calm and beautiful. The gift of asking that key question. The gift of saying that one sentence at the end of an hour-long conversation that sums up the heart of what has been said. These gifts take more careful observation to notice. As Malidoma Somé says, one of the things we long for is to have our gifts acknowledged, confirmed, and approved. Part of centering in gifts as a community is to notice each other's gifts and then acknowledge them, to help each other feel deeply seen as people with something to offer, as people who embody our own unique version of spiritual leadership. For example, in the Chalice Choir, people gifted with very good singing voices. But what you may not know is what a great sense of humor they have as well. During rehearsal, to me, laughter is important as songs. Another gift is the willingness to speak a minority opinion with courage and without bitterness. A member of the fellowship like that is a living guardrail to the principles and practices of Unitarian Universalism. To me, that member is more effective than 10 meetings and 1,000 signed petitions. It is with great affectation that I called that member my favorite agent of chaos. This is one way of centering in gifts in a congregation. And as Malidoma Somé says, this is something we crave. Not only to have our own gifts seen and confirmed, but also to see and confirm the gifts of others. In fact, I've noticed some people tend to get as much joy as telling someone else about their gifts as having their own gifts confirmed. It feels good to appreciate each other in this way. And it's such a rare thing. When we get the opportunity, we want to revel in it. As Unitarian Universalists, one of our principles is to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The practice of noticing and naming each other's gifts is one way to practice this principle. This is one of the ways of noticing the full humanity of each other, of promoting everyone's ability to claim and live into their worth and dignity. The value of generosity, taken from Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Association Shared Value Statement, which passed the General Assembly vote this summer, says, generosity, we cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Right now, I invite you to think of someone who has a gift that is important to you. What have you seen someone doing with joy and love? What has someone offered to you that has been moving or helpful or supporting or inspiring? Take a moment to say thank you in your heart for this gift. And if you have never told this person that the gift you have received from them and what it has meant to you, I invite you to consider doing that. This idea might seem totally awkward. It is strange to me how rarely we tell each other what we appreciate about each other, what we mean to each other. Maybe it's an American thing, but it is rare and it's so awkward. It's something that many of us lack practice in. But if you do it anyway, it is usually appreciated. It is usually a way of spreading some joy. I invite you to imagine ways this could become a more regular part of your life as a congregation. Maybe you want to try the exercise of naming gifts on a committee that you're on, or in a small group that you belong to. If doing it all at once feels overwhelming, maybe you can take turns, lining up the gifts of one person each meeting until you're celebrating everyone. Maybe you want to lean into this even more. Maybe those of you who have the gift for taking the congregational conversational lead, Make it a point to start telling people about the gifts you notice them bringing. If you did that enough, maybe it would be less awkward for others to follow your lead. I call this sermon Receiving Generously because we usually think about giving generously. I want you to know, well, first of all, many of you give very generously of your gifts, your skills, your resources to this congregation, and that also is an important spiritual practice. But we think less often about what it means to receive generously. A gift has meaning when it is received and appreciated. And that's as true for the gift of our being as for more concrete gifts. Since we crave having our gifts seen, acknowledged, affirmed, it is an act of generosity to have each other receive each other's gifts. Part of that is noticing each other's gifts and speaking them aloud, as we have been discussing. And yet there is another layer to the practice of centering in gifts. Malidoma Somé says that there are countless people in the West whose efforts are sadly wasted because they have no means of expressing their innate, unique genius. Some of us are lucky enough to have ways to offer our gifts in other aspects of our life beyond the congregation, in our families or our jobs or other groups we belong to. But some of us don't. Some of us don't have another way to offer our gifts at all. And some of us only a little bit or only occasionally. So as a community, part of receiving each other's generosity means offering each person a way to express their unique genius. Sometimes this requires new avenues to offer gifts of the community that haven't existed yet. This is how we help each other grow into spiritual leadership, by giving the power of each of us a way to shine. You are a genius. Every person in this room around you is a genius. You are all geniuses. You are a genius right now. Without having to do anything, you are already carrying gifts for your community and for the world. Turn your attention inside. Can you notice your own gifts? Everyone around you in this room is a genius. They are all carrying precious gifts for our community and for our world. Can you notice the gifts of another person in this room? If not right now, can you prepare to be on the lookout? Can you make it a practice to seek the gifts of others? You are all geniuses. And together, you can create a community that notices gifts and celebrates them and gives them the way to be expressed. I invite you to give it a try. Thank you.